Hey, friends, welcome to the Smarter Resilience podcast, where we explore how we adapt, respond, and rise through life's challenges with intention. I'm your host, Samira Jones, and today we're diving into a conversation that sits at the intersection of language, clarity, and resilience. Joining me today is Nathan Osorio. Nathan is a transformational speaker, coach, and an author of You Begin with Language. After more than 15 years as an immigration attorney, he built a practical method people can use in real life, oftentimes in under 90 seconds, to move out of overwhelm, stress, and reactivity and back into clarity and choice. His work helps leaders and teams communicate under pressure, build trust, and move forward with intention without burnout or overwhelm. Nathan, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, one of the things that I read when I first opened your site, it says, you don't just communicate better, you live differently. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, language, we have a very superficial experience of language. It's like breathing for us. It's always there. It's just natural, it's part of it. So we think of language as a tool for communication. But really when we get intentional with it, we and really experience it, we actually see it's how we experience life. There is no you and me without language. There is no human being without language. So if we connect to that and really allow that in and be intentional, not just with the words we say, but how we hear and how we process, because most of our language is in our heads, it's thoughts. We can become intentional with that. We actually experience life differently. And so much of language is automatic that one of the key aspects of it is to interrupt what automatically happens.
Interrupt what automatically happens. Can you go deeper on that?
Yeah, so as soon as we hear something or we think a thought, well, we hear something, we have a reaction, right? We have a thought. Or if we have a gut reaction, that's automatic. We very rarely take the time to stop and think, okay, is this the thought I want to create, right? Our minds don't work that way. That's completely okay. So much of what we do is automatic. Breathing is automatic, seeing is automatic, listening is automatic. Language is also automatic. So interrupting what pops up, it's a whole access. Um, and it's not to say what pops up automatically is good or bad. It's just whether you want to interrupt it or not, right? And once we start, what I teach is to identify each thought that pops up as an automatic. Develop that muscle so that you could really see it. Oh, that was right there. I had no intention to create it. It didn't come from a place where I thought, okay, this is I processed the message, I've listened to it, I'm going to start with this. No, it's just right there. So once you start seeing the automatic, then you can interrupt it if you choose.
Mm. So, what I'm hearing is we have control over our thoughts through language, the language that we process in our heads before we actually actualize it out of our mouths. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to put it.
Mhm.
It's it is it's kind of a weird connection. So language, it, it a control works, but it's really connecting with it because we can control our breathing. Like we want to do deep sea diving, we can train it. We can hold our breath. We can expand our lungs. We can do all these things, right? But at the same time, that's developing a connection with our breath, right? So I see language the same way. It's not really about controlling the initial automatic, right? Automatics are there. There's nothing wrong with automatics. We'll never stop them. That's a key tenet of mine. Automatics are part of being human,
Mhm.
right? The point is just to not let them run us.
Right.
So it's control it is, but it's not control of the language, it's control of your experience with it, your interaction with it. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
use interrupt, because that's really the skill that you develop, that you can
Mm-hmm.
access.
So when I hear you say that, it makes me think of um, the M in my framework, in the SMART framework, which is mindset mastery. Do you relate that to a sort of mindset mastery? It's like an awareness that you have. Um, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are different words we use to kind of frame things, right? So mindset mastery, yeah, mindset is certainly a good word that people use to express a certain relationship with language. I think some mindset work might not dive as deep as kind of saying that's the origin of you. You know, some of it's like positive affirmations, stuff like that. So that's why I focus on language, not mindset. Because it, for me, as an attorney, I develop this, I worked within a framework for 15 years and I'm still a practicing attorney where I can constantly go back to. Right. And by framing it as language, I feel like I have an access to it constantly. And I can always go back to language as the core, as the source, so to speak. But yes, it is a type of mindset.
Yeah. And thank you, as an immigration attorney, I'm sure I mean, language is very important in your field. How do you relate that to resilience and adversity? Because when we think of resilience, we always think of just a struggle or grit or endurance. How do you relate your language framework in terms of resilience in your work and working with your clients?
So that's a great question. I, as far as with my clients, there's the legal framework of which I can help them, and then there's the stories I need to tell of their experience to help them.
Mhm.
So as far as that, I do prepare them for some of the cases. I do a lot of affirmative cases, and some of them are victims of crimes or hardship waivers showing that a family member will suffer if they're not granted status. So I tell them, look, we can do this. And so the good news is I can help you with this path. The bad news is we have to talk about everything, not just your current relationship, your whole history, whatever happened. And in my work as an attorney, I prep them for that. Now, and resilience as it connected to language. So I teach a 5 point compass. We talked about automatic as the first one, is the first point. The second step is the knowing what we know about decisions we've made. The third is experiencing, and just to stay name all the points. The fourth is choosing, and the fifth is healing. Resilience, and like you said, things that come up that are hard. A lot of that is how we experience it, right? And I apply my framework all the time. So I'm developing it. I'm experiencing my own framework. I apply it. So lately, I've been going through an experience which is just painful, right?
Mm.
And my experience of it is separate from what I say about it. So as far as letting in the experience or letting in the frustration or the hurt, that's the experience of it, and that's okay. As soon as I start to grab it with language, as soon as I start to understand it, to hold it, to give excuses, to give judgments, I'm applying a different faculty of language. I'm applying knowing. And that in itself is not wrong or bad. I don't really have that in my system, but it has a different impact. The impact is that I'm no longer experiencing it. So for me, the experience I've been going through is grief. But if I try to grab onto it, talk about it, do everything else, I'm not grieving anymore, right?
Mm.
So I try, I, my work separates the pieces that are human into manageable chunks,
Mm.
just so we can, what I say is access our humanity. Because I think being human is all this, right? Joy, pain, sadness, stress, everything. But our humanity is being able to access it, go through it, mature from it, choose differently, share with others, connect with others. So I think I went over your question, but yeah, experience is the space where all that is kind of made possible.
I love that. I love when you talk about maturing and acceptance and going through an experience, because now I want to ask you about language that we speak to ourselves is so important in reframing our thought process. Sometimes you may hear someone say, "Oh, I'm such an idiot," or, they say these negative things about themselves, not knowing that you're actually internalizing that
Yep.
subconsciously. How do you apply that to your framework? Because I feel that the world beats us up enough, and we need to be careful with how we speak to ourselves and the language that we speak to ourselves. Sometimes, depending on your own emotional intelligence and bandwidth and all of those things, you, like I said, you start to internalize it, not knowing that you are turning it into a realization for yourself and you're believing those things about yourself. How do you respond to that, and how do you apply that to your framework?
Well, first, you absolutely internalize it because you only experience life through language. So the more
Mhm.
you use it, the more you believe it. And that's one of the things about the automatic is it's there and then we engage it. We engage it, we either resist it or we accept it because we are dealing with it as truth.
Right.
Right. It has to hold the truth or it has to not be true. So we engage it that way. Right. So we absolutely has an impact, which is why language is fundamental. Right. But to your question, I shouldn't have done that. I can't. I'm an idiot. I'm a failure. You know, that's one that comes up for me a lot as just an underlying automatic. And automatics are not things we want. I want to make that
Mhm.
very clear. We are raised with them. They get put into us. We accept them as young, and we keep using
Mhm.
them. Right.
Mhm.
So, and when we say I'm this, in my framework, we have that as a knowing. Okay, because we know we're that and we're creating that identity. And we've decided on that we know that we are blank. Okay. And there's a difference between knowing something and experiencing it.
Mhm.
And to interrupt it is not to resist it. See, if like I said before, if we say I'm a failure and they say no, I'm not a failure. I have all this evidence as to why I'm not a failure. Then we're using more knowing. Or we say no, I am a failure and these are all the reasons I've failed so many times. Then we're using more knowing. Fighting with it doesn't help because we're engaging with it as if it has value. That's why I say when I say it, we engage with it as if it's truth. We're only engaging with it because it has value. It's automatic. It has no inherent value. It just exists. And that's okay. So for me, what I do is I go to the experience. It's like, what's really there for me? Okay, well, what's there is that I didn't say, I'm a failure, which is one I use a lot. It's like, okay, well, I failed in performing in this task. I didn't complete this, or the outcome wasn't what I wanted. Well, that's an experience. I can feel bad about that. I can feel hurt. I can feel disappointment. I can feel all these things. That doesn't mean I have to create an identity about it.
I love that.
And experiencing it, that's why on my compass, there's choosing and healing as 4 and 5. So I can choose the experience of like, yeah, that sucked. And then I can let it be. I can
Mhm.
integrate it. I can heal from it. I can be like, you know what? The outcome wasn't what I wanted, you know? And that's okay. It
And
doesn't
that's
mean anything.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a big thing of mine.
Yeah.
Nothing is wrong and everything matters is a tenet I kind of live by. It's okay is huge for me because when we arrive at a judgment, when we arrive at a decision, that's a knowing, okay? And knowings are not bad inherently, but they are limiting. And we don't need to know things to move through them, to experience them, to heal from them. Those are different spaces. And that's why accessing humanity is really integrating all that, leaving space for all of that. Because we all know, humans know things all the time. We decide things, good and bad, that's fine. But we want something more. And we're capable of it. We all are. And I teach that. I teach a way to access that. I think all our work in this space, the different methodologies and different teachers, is to arrive at the same place.
Mm.
However you get there, whether it's meditation, spirituality, personal development, mindset, whatever you want to call it, it's to arrive at the same place, and that place is access. And what I've
Access?
becoming access, yeah,
Access. Can you
access.
explain that?
So when I say access, is access to our humanity,
Okay.
access to letting things be, access, some call it forgiveness, I call it integration, access for experiencing what's there, letting go of what's gone, choosing as an act, not with reasons and justifications and excuses, but just choosing, right?
Mm.
And we have this idea of a few days ago, I chose happiness, not because it was right there, not because I could touch it, not because I could experience it in that moment. I chose it. And more recently, I've been choosing to be okay. Not because I know it, because I'm not right now. Not because I can experience it, because I'm going through something. But I choose it. And
Yeah.
that makes access to my humanity available.
I see the connector now. And you probably seen like my face light up as soon as you said you chose it. And I speak to that all the time. We get to choose joy. It doesn't mean that there aren't things going on in your life. We all have things going on, but you get to choose how you experience it. And that's a part of that language piece that you're talking about because language doesn't always have to be verbal. It could be what's going on inside your head that then challenges you to make a decision on how you act. And for me, I so I compartmentalize things and say, okay, what is the best next step for me in this situation so that I don't unravel? And it isn't always a negative thing. And I know we're talking about language, from so far a negative perspective and how to change it to positive, but language can be positive as well. You don't have to be in a bad mood to choose joy. You can just choose
Yeah.
lovely joy. Just wake up and choose joy. And I love that. I love that you said that. Let me ask you a question. This just came to mind. I did a podcast interview. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the host had asked me about forgiveness. And he says he still hasn't found anyone that could give him the steps to forgiveness. And I said, well, I myself am still practicing that, full transparency with different,
Yeah.
people in my life. And my answer was, I asked God to help me, just to help me in my prayer. I recently started praying for certain people that I never prayed for before. And so that was a step forward for me. What recommendation do you have, or do you have anything as far as language is concerned when it comes to forgiveness, since you brought forgiveness up?
Well, I think there's a space of what we know forgiveness should be, right? Either I
Hmm.
need to forgive them, or and maybe what they did or what they said, or how how is it I can get to forgiveness is they need to do something for me to forgive them, right? I think there are
Mm.
steps that we assume are there in forgiveness. And I think that's the first part of what do you mean by forgiveness? It's like do I need to forgive myself? Do I need to forgive them for a wrong they did? So the first one is context, right? Because there's a whole world when we say forgiveness.
Right.
But
Hmm.
at its core, it's separating the knowing and the experiencing. Because what we know about forgiveness is how it should feel, is how I should be at the end of it, is how I know I should not have this hurt or this pain, or I know I should let it go.
Mm,
But sometimes I think, and I'm just going through this right now, in your question, sometimes I think we we hold on to the experience because we get something from
mhm,
it. One of the things I believe about humans is that even our worst habits, even the things we want to change, we get a benefit from it. It's not might not be one we want, but we get a benefit from it, and it can be protective. It could be being
mm.
right, you know. And I think there's a space for that in forgiveness when letting go is not just about feeling the hurt, feeling what was there and letting it move through you. That's the language I use. But also about letting it go about the benefit you get from it.
Mm,
Because when you say, I need to forgive them,
mm,
you have a judgment there about something. And you're resisting that to forgive them because you don't need anything from anyone for forgiveness. So my compass, it applies to a pathway. My world is very accessible. That's how I create my work. So we walk our pathway, our lives, and the compass is an orientation tool for it. So as soon as we start saying incorporating someone else on our pathway, or we saying they need something, or they need to do something, or I need them to do something, we're no longer on our pathway. We're trying to pull someone else along. We're trying to engage someone else into our world, and we don't necessarily need to do that. There might be a space for that to build with someone, to connect, to get clear, but that's not an individual act. That's not just you. You're trying to pull someone else in, and I
mm.
think forgiveness can be a lot of that. I think it's forgiveness comes from judgment, not from pain. Because I'm hurting right
Really?
now. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
Pain
interesting
is
that you
pain.
say that. And I'm listening to
Oh,
you when you say this pathway, and we are the ones pulling people into the pathway, and we're making the judgment and then having this issue with forgiveness. I'm going to challenge you on that.
please.
Okay. The person and everybody's situation is different, but I would think that the person who needs forgiveness, or that we need to forgive so that we can come back to that part of ourselves that's going to that same place that you said, the humanity and all of that, they interjected themselves by doing a thing, an act on our path. They weren't on our
Yeah.
path. They had to come on our path to do a thing in order for us to feel a way that now needs forgiveness. Or am I not? You're not tracking?
No, I got you. And I
You
love
get
that.
it?
I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And that's very common and very human. And I would say you're combining two things.
Okay.
The first thing is what they did, and you know what they did. And you have a judgment of what they did, and you have an experience of what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing is what you do next.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to be combined. You know, one of the next things you could do is, you know, there's one thing is removing someone from that pathway or putting a boundary or, you know, however, restoring your own pathway, however you see fit to do that. But then separate from that is, oh, well, now I need to forgive them for that, but they need to make it right. It's your pathway. It's always been your pathway. It will always be your pathway. Dealing with the mess on your pathway is dealing with the mess on your pathway. But if you're expecting something from them, you're not going to find that on your pathway.
And I get that. Like, again, that goes back to, you have a choice, right? So you get to decide. And yes, you do get to decide to move on your path and all of that. But at the end of the day, we are told, for those of us that are believers, that we should forgive. And so if we're being obedient, we are trying to forgive, but that human, that flesh side of us, still has some resentment. And that's the part that I'm talking about. Of course, we all can move on, um, but a lot of us still have, a little resentment, unforgiveness for the people in our lives.
Yeah. And so you cut out a little bit there, but I heard the most of it. It was the resentment. And yeah, and I think the resentment comes from a judgment, right? It's, can you, like for me, when I hear resentment, I hear you did me wrong, like something like that. Is that what we're, so instead of,
We can
what I,
use that. Someone
yeah,
violated, did something wrong. That's not a well, I mean, you can call it a judgment. I call it a fact.
it's the same thing though. That's the thing. It's a knowing.
Okay, a judgment can be a fact. Um,
Yeah.
because
You
yeah,
know they did you
it's
wrong.
a
You
knowing,
know it.
right? Go back to
Yeah,
that
it's a
knowing.
knowing.
It's a knowing. Okay.
Yeah, it's a knowing.
Mhm.
What does that have to do with your experience?
It has a lot to do with a lot of people's experience, and let me tell you why. Because everyone does not reframe and move forward the same way. And why is that? Because not everybody has the same set of tools. What you're providing today is language tools, things that you can do within your framework. Now, we're going back to a familial family and the places that people are brought up. And those homes don't necessarily have people that have the tools to help you through whatever it is that you've been through. And it doesn't have to happen in childhood. It could have been something that happened in adulthood. But everything goes back to how we were shaped as children, our belief system, what our parents believed, what the people who we were around growing up believed. That's what we internalize because that's all we know. And so when life shows up, that language is the language of everything and everybody that we've been around to that point, and how we use those languages to shape our universe and make our decisions.
Yeah. And all that is automatic.
Hmm.
That's why my work for me is so expansive. Everything, every experience that I've come across, every client I've worked with, everything that I've tried to work through in my life, I can place on the pathway. I can use the compass through it. And I don't say there's a right way or a wrong way, but it's an access. That's why I'll go back to that word. So yeah, our upbringing, in my book, I talk about, the passing of my father and how I'm the patriarch. I'm come from a Latino family. He died when I was 26. There was a lot of knowing there. There was a lot of responsibility. There was a lot of what I had to do. And all that was a trap.
Hmm.
It kept me in the automatic, it kept me in the knowing, and my experience was not good.
Mm.
And once I was able to work through that, I still deal with the same circumstances, but my experience is different of it. So when we talk about our cultural norms, our societal, automatics, that's all there. And it's still all in language,
Hmm.
right? We can only express it and relate to it through language. That's why language is the access, because it really all begins there. And we have this idea that it's just a tool of expression, but no, it's actually the way it's imprinted.
Wow. And so you mentioned your book. You begin with language. What is the 90-second exercise that you have for those? What? Mhm.
So the 90-second exercise, it's not really in the book. That's actually developed afterwards. The book
Oh,
is
okay.
really the beginning of my work, but my work has matured a lot and just evolved a lot. So the 90-second access is really two questions. What is my experience right now? And that can be hard for people because they want to list the facts, they want to list the circumstances, they want to list the reasons. So, what is my experience that I'm having right now? I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm revolted, I'm offended, I'm all this. Well, they did
Mm.
this, or did that. No, stay in your experience. And then the second question is, what is the experience I want to have?
Mm.
Well, I want to be free, I want to be happy, I want to be at peace, I want to be focused, I want to be, And answering those questions is a skill because we know what they mean, right? We already know what an experience means. We know what experience wants. We kind of have an idea about this. But it's developing those two questions. And then once you can lay out the experience you're having and the experience you want, then you can choose. Take actions to fulfill on the experience you want.
Mm.
And there's a lot of resistance to that because we'll go to, but I can't because this exists. Oh, but if I could, I would. That's not how language works. Circumstances will remain the same. It's how you experience them. That's what changes. It's how you engage them. That's what language is at its core. That's why I call it an access. It's how you engage it.
Let me ask you, do you have difficulty with your framework when it comes to that? When someone's experiencing something right now, whether this is in your practice or in your personal life, and you come across someone that's having a moment, I always call it a moment because it will pass, right? Um, you mentioned in that moment them having an experience. How do you, or do have you had challenges with people reframing that and getting to that point of having the experience that they want to have, because again they don't have the faculty or the knowing of how to get there because of the thing that's underneath the thing that controls everything. I learned that in a primal um, questions exercise at a conference that I was recently at, because it is
Mm.
so true. That's what we
Oh, yeah.
call the root, like at the root of the tree. It's the thing that's underneath the thing that controls everything. And that's such a deep place to go when you're experiencing someone that, I mean, just has just years and years and years of dysfunction and toxicity. How can you just get them to get to where they want to be if they haven't been there in so long?
So that's great. That's a great question. That's true. Um, I can't get anyone anywhere. No one can.
Mm,
They have to be willing to walk the pathway,
mm,
their
mm.
pathway. And part of being as a coach is walking them through it. And they
Yeah,
resist. People want change, but don't want to go through change, you know? And it's difficult. And like I said, I'm not okay now because I'm dealing with that right now in myself, but I can see it on my pathway. And I can really, for me, one of the things that's really powerful is the third prong of the compass, experience. Because experiencing something without adding words to it, without trying to reason it, justify it, excuse it, shut it down, say I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be feeling this, that's very difficult because we don't like to experience things.
hmm,
We simply don't. We are protective beings. Being human means being a certain way. Being a male Latino means being a certain way, right?
mm,
Being a strong person for the family means being a certain way. We have these constructs, uh, these automatics of how things should be and how we should be. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just,
yeah.
but laying all those down and just being in the experience of it, that's where we have the most growth.
Exactly. And that's what I was just getting ready to say. But that's where you grow. And if people know, if they have the knowing of this is what I have to go through, I have to sit in it, I have to be willing to feel it in order to get where I say I want to be. Why is that so difficult?
Oh, because we don't want to experience it. Because we have something against it. Because it makes us vulnerable. Because we don't
Mm,
have control over that. Because we think we need control.
mm,
Experience, pure experience. So, we have this idea of ineffable experiences, right? Moments of bliss that you just can't describe, moments of sorrow and grief that you just can't describe. We can be in them, but letting ourselves be, like we can discover ourselves in them. That's how they usually show up, right? Like a tragedy happens and it just hits you and
right.
you can't control it. Or you're
Mm,
just in a moment that's just seems so happy and it's just like, wow, this is really perfect, right? It just
yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Hmm.
But letting yourself be there intentionally, every person resists that. I resist it because it's not
Really?
comfortable. Of course, it's not
Mm.
comfortable for us because what we have to sit with is just that
Mm-hmm.
and just experience it and I think we're afraid we're going to get stuck in it because that's a danger too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, getting stuck in what we're experiencing, but that's not. I think there's a danger in all of that, but that's not the purpose of it. When I say, and I guess I want to be very clear about that. When I say experiencing it, it's not staying it, sitting in it, brewing it. That's why I say eliminate language, because if I talk about it more, I'm digging a hole. No, you're just passing through it. That's why when I say pass through, it's like a wave. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're at the beach and you step in the ocean and it's moving through you and around you. That's okay. And it's
It's
okay to
okay.
experience it. Going back to what we said in the beginning, it's okay to experience. And we have a lot of knowings that it's not okay because it means something about us. It means we're weak. It means we're sensitive. It means we can't. It means whatever we put there. But it doesn't. Because a meaning means we know. We know what experiencing is supposed to be like, or its impact on us, or what it decides about us. And the compass
Mm-hmm.
is it's not a, while most of the preliminary work on it is, automatic knowing, experiencing, it's a compass, right? So you will start at one place, you'll go to a different place. It's not in a row. And the more you use it, the more you're experiencing it, the more you can see that, okay, no, I can orient in any moment to wherever I'm at. I'm not always in the automatic, but I can be terrified of what I think this experience is, right? And it can
Mm.
be, it's a vulnerable place to be because we have an idea of what vulnerability means.
Absolutely. And can I tell you something, Nathan?
Sure.
You said you're going through something right now. And you also said that when I asked, well, why don't people want to go there? And you said because it's uncomfortable and people just aren't willing to be vulnerable. However, you also said that it's okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use your words back to you and say that it's okay. It's okay to sit in it. I myself, I call them acts of life. We've all
Mm.
gone through our different acts of life, which is just another way of saying chapter. And in those acts of life, because they don't just stop, they happen over and over again. It's like,
Right.
a mountain and then a valley, a mountain and then the valley, a mountain and then the valley. And I've learned that when I'm in those valley moments, it's okay. Even when it's uncomfortable, I've
Right.
actually learned to be comfortable in my uncomfortableness, if that's a word.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? Because I know how it's going to bring me out on the other side of it, because of evidence of the past, that's what helps me sit in it. And I say, just sit in it because that's where
Yeah.
you're going to grow. That's where you're going to get clarity. And that's where you will be able to take the lessons that you've learned in your uncomfortable season to be able to help someone else through theirs. If you aren't willing to sit in yours, you can't help someone else sit in theirs because you don't have evidence of the past. So I challenge you, Nathan,
Oh.
to really, truly, to truly embrace that it's okay. When you truly embrace it's okay, your language changes. Your
Yeah.
language then says, I need this moment. Reframe it. Don't give it the word uncomfortable. Don't give it the word overwhelm. Say, this is needed in order for me to get to where I say I want to be. And that's what I
Oh, I
have for
like that.
you.
No, I like that a lot. Thank you. Yeah, no, I, in my lowest moment, so like an hour ago, not to be,
Mm-hmm.
well, to be revealing, I just had a big cry, right? A big cry
Oh,
and a good body release. And it's something I've been processing the past few days. And at the lowest times when I've cried and just been there, I can be like, I'm so thankful for this work.
Yes.
That's, and like you said, if you can't, that's a space where growth is part of your pathway, right? The ups and downs, you're always moving. That's why I use a
Mm-hmm.
compass. That's why I use a pathway, because movement is intentional. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
spiraling or stuck in a certain, like, thoughts, we're not moving, we're circling, right?
Right.
So, or when
Mm-hmm.
we're thinking of fantasies or what should have been or could have been, one thing I came up with just recently, it's like that's looking up, not out. You can't move on your
Mm-hmm.
pathway looking up. You can only look out, and looking out means going through it. So there is, and it's true. A few months ago, I was at a retreat, and I really got that I was in a space that was very uncomfortable, and it was the most powerful cry and release I've had, I think, in my life, aside from
Mm-hmm.
those ineffable grief moments that have come up. And I
Yeah.
really got that being in that experience is a space, and I had it as like a lung. I experienced it like a lung, just filling and releasing, and I got that I can do that for myself. I can do that for anyone.
That's
And
right.
I can only do that for anyone because I could do it for myself.
For yourself. There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
So,
That's what I was just
so
saying. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's an experience, and and I wouldn't say I don't need it, just because that creates a knowing, that creates a need. But if you really want to move forward, then choose it. So, like I said earlier, I choose to be okay, not because I experience it now. And having evidence of it is good, but I feel like people might not think they have evidence of it. And then they're stuck
Mm.
trying to decide, oh, wait, now they're stuck trying to figure out if they have evidence of it, right? So evidence is a type of knowing too, which is not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing. I just don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Choose it.
Everyone has evidence because everyone has survived 100% of the things that they've gone through. You may not think of it, or a situation may not come to mind immediately, but you're still, the fact is, you're still here, and no one has had a perfect life. Everybody has had something that has happened to them. And the fact that you are still here, that you're still standing, means that you've been through some things, and you've been through 100% of those things, and you're still here. It doesn't mean that it was easy. It doesn't mean that it wasn't challenging and all of that. It means that you went through it, 100% of it, and you've gotten through. And sometimes we have those things that as soon as somebody say, what is something that happened in your life that you're still holding on to, we can immediately think of it. I know I can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what my whole life purpose is about, you know,
Yeah.
my story. And then there are some things that some people just don't know right away. Maybe they didn't have something so traumatic happen, but everybody has had something that has happened. And we have all gotten through 100% of the things that we've been through. It doesn't mean that there isn't still some residue, because a lot of us still are dealing with residue. But it just means that, we all do have evidence of the past.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us today. Tell us, how can we find your book? Tell us the title of it. Where can we find you, your website, and all of your social media? And if you have anything going on right now, are you having any type of events or activities? Talk to us.
Yeah. So my website is, the hub for everything. It's nathanmaxosorio.com. Um, and my book, the link is there, but you can find it on Amazon. You Begin with Language, Master the Foundation of Human Experience. It's an audiobook too, if you prefer to listen. Uh, I'm starting my YouTube channel where I'm going to start implementing this and kind of teaching it. Language, we have written language, so it's very visual. So it's a perfect space to just dive into it, right? So I'll be teaching it there. And I also do small group coaching,
Okay.
teaching the compass and the pathway, which you can find on my website. I have small cohorts that start every month or every other month, just depending on the size. So yeah, find me there, and I'd love to connect. And it's funny, it's been a theme of this conversation, but you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. I love it. And to our viewers, you're going to be okay. Thank you so much for joining us, The Smarter Resilience. And until next time, take care.